install the course database with Goorm. Let's start by setting up an account on Goorm. In order to do so, please go to ide.goorm.io. Once you're on this website, click on Sign Up. Later on, you'll be clicking on Sign In. And this takes you to the Sign Up screen. Sign in with the Google Federated login for your @valpo.edu address. That's what I'm doing right now. And here you are. So here you're seeing your IDE dashboard for Goorm. Let's take a look at the left side right now. Here is your name, and there should be the type of account that you have set up. My account is free. This means for me the billing for free accounts applies. The billing, we're going to jump down here, is 45 free credits per month. And how those credits are being used, we will see as soon as we set up the container. In the space here, you will see all the containers that you have, and if you have made a special container space, then you have your special containers in the special container space as well that you can see here. And that's pretty much it. Resource usage will show you how you are using those 45 free credits. You have the option of purchasing more credit if you need it. However, you should be fine if you create a container with the specifications that I'm going to show you, and then as soon as you're done working on it, you shut the container down, and then you spin the container back up, or you reactivate the container as soon as you want to work with it again, and that will help you work within those 45 free credits. So now let's take a look at how to set up a new container. We're going to use the new container here, and then within the new container, we're going to not change any of this. We're going to make a name for the container. I'm going to call it MySQL, and then we're going to set our performance, and this is where the billing comes in. You're seeing here you have several different performance levels. For our purposes for this course, we have a very small database and we don't have many transactions in that database, so we're going to use the micro level for performance. The micro level for performance takes up 2.25 credits per hour of work time. And remember, we have 45 credits that we are going to use, so 2.25 credits per hour of uptime means that we'll be able to work with the 45 credits that come for free within the Goorm interface pretty well. So do we need to add storage? No, we don't need to add storage. And now here we have to go to modules and packages, turn modules and packages on, and this is where we want to enable the MySQL-CTL command, which we're going to use in order to turn the database on and off. And then we want to install MySQL, of course, because that is what we're going to be working with. Then we're going to hit create. And this will build our container here. As you're seeing, MySQL is being built. I'm going to pause this video now because this is going to take a while. So this took about 3-4 minutes for the container to be created. At the end of the creation process, you will see this pop-up here that says container has been successfully created, and then run the generated container, and this should be the name that you have given your container. In our case, I've named my container MySQL. Then we have the option to run the container or to review the settings. Now, reviewing the settings means here we have the very small CPU. That's because we're not processing a lot of data. We're just going to use the this little database to practice our database skills. For memory, we have 1 GB, and for storage, we have 5 GB. So That's way more than enough here. And this is a private container. That means only the users invited to the owner of this container can access the container. And then we do not need Visual Studio, Jupyter Notebook, or Jupyter Lab at all. So that is all that we need here. And we have our MySQL Python container here. So the next thing we want to do is we want to run the container. I'm hitting run, and this will open the actual IDE as you're seeing here, and it is loading the container right now. So this is the Goorm IDE within which you will be working. On the left-hand side, you are seeing the project with the folder and the project name, depending on what you have named your project when you have built the container. This is where we will generate files and where we will store files that we're going to call later on. The contents of these files will be displayed right here in the upper right-hand corner, and in the lower left right-hand corner is where we will be working, because this here is the command prompt, and the first activity that we're going to do is to verify that the database is actually working. Let's go do that now. In order to do that, we are going to type mysql.ctl. In order to do that, we're going to type mysql-ctl and then CLI for command line interface. Then we're going to hit return, and we're seeing it's stopping the MySQL database server. It's starting the MySQL database server. That's very good. That's exactly what we want to see. And at the end here, we're seeing the MySQL prompt. This tells us that we are now logged into our DBMS, our database management system. So now we can type show databases, and we should at least see the configuration schemas that MySQL requires. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. We're seeing the information schema, MySQL, the performance schema, and sys. These are the schemas that hold the information that MySQL needs in order to run with the root user or with any other user that we have built. Now let's see if we can actually access these schemas. In order to do that, let's focus on the MySQL schema here and take a look at what's inside. It's kind of like opening the drawer to your dresser. So we're going to type use and then MySQL, and we want to get ourselves into the habit right away of using a semicolon at the end of any SQL command. That is such that the DBMS knows that we have finished typing the command, that it's now time to execute. So we're seeing here database changed, which means that now we have basically opened the MySQL drawer here in our dresser. Now let's take a look inside and see what we have there. So we can now type show tables, because inside of our schema we should see a number of tables. And that's exactly true. And note that at the end of my show tables command here, I used my semicolon again, and we're seeing here the tables that are located inside of my MySQL schema. Let me just make this a little bit bigger here. Okay, there you go. So we're seeing here all these tables, and we're seeing we also have a user table. So let's take a look at what's inside the user table and how the user table is built. In order to see how the user table is built, we can use the describe command that can be typed as either describe or as DESC, and then user, and it should end with, you guessed it, a semicolon. And here we are looking at the structure of the user table. Field here tells us all the columns in this table. So host, user, uppercase here, right? Then any kinds of permissions here, select privileges, insert privileges, update privileges, and so on and so on. Down to user attributes, authentication string, and so on and so on. We are seeing here also what kinds of data, what type of data each field can hold. So here we have, for example, a character string of 255 characters in the host field. We have a character string of 32 characters that we can use for the user. And then we have the enum character type, which is basically a drop-down, pull-down menu, if you will. Here the options are N and Y, no and yes. And here are some other options that we're seeing in the enum data type. Another interesting data type here is integer, also timestamp, which is a timestamp. And yeah, so these are the data types, the types of data that these fields can hold, these columns, right? The next thing that's interesting is, can any of the fields in any of these columns here be empty, like have a null value, which means no value at all? And we're seeing here a number of our fields, a number of our columns in this table must contain data, because they cannot, that's a double negative, contain a null value, such as host, user, and any of the privileges here. And then we have some fields that can actually be empty, such as the authentication string. We're seeing here that it says yes, password last changed, password lifetime, and so on and so on. So these are where we see yes. That means that these columns, these fields are nullable. The next thing that we're seeing here is the key. Primary key means unique values for each row. So we have unique values for each host, for each row in the host field, and we have unique values for each row in the user field, in the user column, if you will. Then here, do we have any default settings? Well, here where we see N, there are no default settings. Here we have a null default setting, which means it's empty. Here we have 0. Note that 0 is not the same as null. Null is empty. 0 is the number 0. And here we have, ooh, look at this, caching SHA-2 password. We'll take a look at that in a moment. And then here we have any extra. So in order to take a look at what we have in our, let's see, user here, what we have in our user column, we can say select, and then we see that user here, the field name starts with an uppercase U, and the table name starts with a lowercase u. So we're going to say, let's take a look at, or select, all values in the user column in the table user. And again, semicolon. And what we're seeing here is all the users here. The one that we're recognizing is the root user, because we saw that when we logged in. That was on the login page that zipped by. So good. The next thing that we can do is we can select our user, and ooh, look at this authentication string. I want to know what that is. So I'm going to select two columns now. So I'm going to say select user, comma, authentication string from, and then again the table name user. And that's basically how you look at values inside of the database, right? You select, and then you select whatever column, whatever field name you're seeing here, right? And you can either select one field name, which is what we've done here, or if you connect them with commas, you can select however many field names you want from here, and then from, and the table name with a semicolon at the end. And that's exactly what we're doing here. And we're seeing, oh, these are our authentication strings. And we're seeing, well, let's see. This is a combination of invalid salt and password that must never be used. Okay, fine. So in other words, what we're looking at here is really an encrypted password. We're also seeing that the root user, oops, does not have a password. And that fits because we saw that authentication string can actually be nullable, which means it does not have to have a value in it. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. All right. All right. Are you ready to install the movie stream database? Because I am. So I'm going to do that by clicking the plus sign here. This will give me the option for a new file. I'm going to call my new file movie stream, and that will open, when I hit enter, a tab over here. So I have downloaded my movie stream MySQL file from the LMS, Canvas or Blackboard, and then I'm going to cut and paste this in here, and then I'm going to hit Control and S, or I can hit File and Save, and that will be my movie stream file. So now that we have uploaded our file to the Goorm server, we can actually install it. Let me just give it a little bit more real estate. Good. In order to install the file, I'm going to have to call the file with the source command, and then I'm going to hit enter, and what you're seeing here is our database is installing. All right, so now I'm going to type show databases again. What you're seeing here is we have a movie stream database. In order to double check that all the tables that I wanted have been installed in the movie stream database, I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to type use, and then because this is uppercase, I'm going to have to type this in uppercase as well. Use movie stream with a semicolon. We're seeing the database has changed, which means, yay, we have installed a movie stream database. And now we're going to take a look at the tables with show tables. And here we're seeing all the tables in our movie stream database. Do our tables actually have columns? Well, let's take a look at the movie table, for example. So to check the format of the table, we use our describe command again, and we're saying describe movie with the semicolon, and we're seeing table movie stream dot movie does not exist. What? Oh, look, it's uppercase movie, right? So let's try this with uppercase, and we're seeing here that our Goorm IDE is case sensitive. That's because it is built on Linux, and Linux is a case sensitive operating system. So whatever is in uppercase needs to be in uppercase when you are working with it. We're seeing here, this is the structure of our movie table, and we're seeing here also all the different data types, whether the column is nullable, that means whether it has to contain data, that's when it says no here, or whether it's optional for it to contain data, which is when it says yes here. All right, good, so we know that, and now we can type, let's see, movie title. We can check if we actually have data inside of these columns. So I'm going to select movie title, and then from movie, and note here how movie title is uppercase because it's uppercase here, right? And movie is uppercase because the table name is uppercase here. And we're seeing we have our movies here inside of our movie column here, our movie titles. That's very good. So if I wanted to look at two columns now, for example, year produced, then I would do the same thing, only that I would look at movie title, comma, and then year underscore produced, and then from with the table name, and then movie uppercase. And as we're seeing here, we've got our movie title and the year produced column right here. And the columns appear on your screen in the order in which you're typing them in. So if I wanted to see them in reverse order, I could say year produced, comma, movie title, from movie, and then the year would appear first on my screen and the movie title would appear second. All right, so now the next thing we need to discuss is how do I leave the database and how do I shut my container down so I don't use up uptime credits when I'm not actually working on the database. To leave the database, or to leave MySQL, we just type exit. To leave the container, we go into the upper right-hand corner and we hit the exit container button, and then it says here, would you like to exit the container now? And make sure that exit container after stopping is checked, and that will stop your container. This way you will not use up all of your credits. Okay, and that has stopped your container, so now you can run the container again, and you can also double check how many credits you have used up. You're seeing here my 45 credits have gone down to 42.67 credits because I've been working on this container. And that's it.